Hey everyone, today I am talking about not The Conjuring. I'm talking about Annabelle Creation. It is no longer called Annabelle 2. It was actually September of last year, 7 months ago, that we got the very first announcement trailer for Annabelle 2. That is a really long time to have an announcement trailer and then wait 7 months to put out the full main trailer. So it's kind of like putting out a teaser and then over half a year later putting out the full trailer. So briefly, I wanted to talk about this trailer because it does look very, very good. And then stay tuned for after the video, after my, not technically after the video, just stay tuned after my reaction to the video, because I'm going to break down the trailer a little bit and talk to you about quite a few things that I'm sure you missed in this trailer and speculate on what they could possibly mean for this movie. So, Annabelle. It's titled Annabelle Creation. The poster for the movie just came out. The poster looks great. It doesn't really look real. It kind of looks almost like a sketch or a drawing, and it looks like she is in a box that I will talk about in the trailer breakdown. And you can see like half of her face is kind of like ripped away or melted away or something. And I have a few thoughts and speculations on that, but the poster looks great. I'm glad they ditched the Annabelle 2 poster because I'm really glad they're not calling this Annabelle 2 Creation. It's just called Annabelle Creation. And I think that's a really smart idea because I feel like they are trying to distance themselves from the original Annabelle. And the reason I have Rosemary's Baby up here, it is probably my favorite horror film ever, and it is a cinematic masterpiece, storytelling, visuals on every level. So I was highly disappointed when Annabelle essentially tried to rip off Rosemary's Baby and give us a really crappy story. And um, the tagline for the original Annabelle in the trailer was promising, "Before the Conjuring, there was Annabelle." And the origin story was garbage. The movie was garbage. Everything about it was dismal. It was just crap. So it looks like with this Annabelle, from the trailer, it looks like they're actually telling us where the doll came from, which I will talk about in my breakdown. But it also looks like how the doll came to be possessed, I'm assuming. So I don't think this is a complete redo. I don't think they're scrubbing everything from the original Annabelle. I think this may have a few loose connections to that, but I do think this is kind of a quasi remake from the original film. So there will be some loose connections made between the first Annabelle and this new one, but I can tell it's been 3 years since the first one came out. They're really trying to distance themselves from it, probably hoping nobody will remember, because yes, Annabelle was a huge box office success and I contributed to that on opening weekend. But the reason was because I thought it was going to be awesome, like The Conjuring is, and as you can tell, because it's in my collection. But I was sorely disappointed about that, and so that's why it was such a big box office success, is because of The Conjuring, and so everybody assumed it would be on par with that. But if you go back and watch the trailer for the original Annabelle, it's bad. I mean, it's just so cliche and corny and dumb. Whereas this one, yes, there are cliche jump scares, which the jump scares did get me, but overall, the story looks like they've taken their time, and it looks like it's much more creative and not just a rip-off of a masterpiece that they're probably hoping nobody remembers, just because it's older. But also, we are getting a new director for this film. They made a point to say first from producer James Wan, which the first Annabelle did the same thing, but they're just reassuring people that James Wan, he's been involved with The Conjuring and the Insidious films, and he is playing a hand in this as well, even though I guess he sort of did in the first one. I have a little more faith in that name brand this time, and especially because now they're bringing in fresh new talent from the director of Lights Out, which I heard was a decent horror PG-13 horror film. So now that he's been given license to do an R rating, I'm sure it's going to be. I have faith in those two names. As I was saying, they are kind of rebranding the Annabelle spin-off franchise, um, by not really saying, because by saying for the first one this is before The Conjuring, they really are separating it, whereas this one says, um, the next chapter in the Conjuring universe. Annabelle is just one of the spin off franchises from The Conjuring, which is a smart idea because Annabelle was really well utilized in the first Conjuring film. She kind of opened and closed the film, kind of a nice character that way. So she was the first kind of sub villain in The Conjuring, and then in The Conjuring 2 there was the nun as the big bad antagonist, and now the nun is getting her own film, her own film next year. So I'm assuming the nun, we get Annabelle this year, the nun next year, and then probably The Conjuring 3, and then maybe Annabelle 3, whatever that is. From what I've heard, they planned on doing a lot of Annabelle films. I have no doubt they're going to keep making Conjuring films like they're doing with Insidious and some of these other properties. They keep making them because they're very successful. So I do like how they're spinning that as this is the next chapter. We are going back before The Conjuring, but it's embedded in the Conjuring universe, which is great because they're capitalizing on the success of last year's The Conjuring 2. So overall, the trailer was frightening. The story intrigues me. There's a lot of elements to it. It looks much more in the vein of the original Conjuring, which really satisfies me because I love the original Conjuring. Kind of helps me accept this more. Um, because if they would have called this Annabelle 2 and it would have looked more in line with the first one and it maybe even would have followed that one, oh gosh, I would not be seeing this. But they're doing the right thing, and I'm really pleased with this initial trailer. So that is my reaction to the Annabelle Creation trailer. Now, make sure to stay tuned right now because I will be breaking this trailer down and I will be talking about many things that you missed that could be vital to your viewing experience going into Annabelle. So, the first thing is this Annabelle doll is made by the Mullins, and that is in the description, but also Warner Brothers official trailer. You see it says Mullins Toy Company, limited edition of 100. So there are 100 Annabelle dolls out there. And I think that's interesting because that could possibly open up avenues for different stories. It is gives you a very Chucky vibe, Child's Play vibe. So I am wondering if it's a similar situation. Also, we learn that these orphaned girls, the Mullins have opened up their home and they call it the St. Eustace Home for Girls. Now I looked up St. Eustace. St. Eustace is the patron saint for those facing adversity, which makes sense, and it especially makes sense for the protagonist, crippled girl, because in the trailer she says it's coming after me because I'm the weakest, and she clearly has this physical struggle she has to overcome. So I am wondering if somehow why they picked St. Eustace. He was martyred in 118 AD. He was a convert to Christianity. So I'm wondering if he will play a bigger role in this somehow, if they'll call upon him or his power. I know in the Conjuring films they called upon the power of Jesus. So I'm wondering if they may do this with St. Eustace. Also, we see the little girl who the protagonist calls a monster. She turns around and she has this really weird, looks like this weird witch face, this monster face. And then the next scene we see these hands. And so this tells me, and then especially at the end of the trailer, we see the kind of the little girl. We see the little girl and Annabelle sitting across from the table. So that tells me the Annabelle doll can somehow like manifest herself outside of the doll. She's not necessarily in the doll. She could project herself. So I am intrigued to see how that plays out, because clearly this little girl manifestation can somehow shapeshift into something like some kind of big monster with like red fingernails and the skin's all messed up and the face looks creepy. And that's what I was referencing back to the poster. If you look right on the side of the face, it shows, I think that is kind of what it's alluding at. There's something sinister under there that it can um, shapeshift. Also, we see when the little girl is walking into the room, something you probably missed is Annabelle was sitting on the bed. Just something interesting. And also, this is really weird. Now, I'm going to go into speculation territory here, but we see a bed with drapes over it. These kind of like billowy drapes, and then in another scene, we see a hand reaching um, to get like this half face, very Phantom of the Opera-esque, and it's on top of a Bible. And the Bible and the prayer, we know these people are clearly Christians. They have the Saint Eustace on their bus, and they also have a nun with them, which I'll talk about in a bit. So at first you may be wondering, well, this is weird because that little half face does not belong to a doll. Well, later on in the trailer, we see Mrs. Mullins wearing the face and reading the Bible with a picture of her deceased daughter in it. The Bible shuts and is ripped out of her hands. But if you go to the cast on IMDb, you'll see that there's a lady who plays the evil Mrs. Mullins. Which brings me to my next point. There's also a shot where the girls are sitting under a sheet. They have a flashlight on, and you see this hand reach up, grab them, and then you see a face, a mask. And at first you'd think it's the monster, the witch that I just discussed, because the length of the hands looks similar, except this doesn't have the same kind of polish and color to the skin. And you can also, it almost looks like there's like blonde hair hanging down right here or something of the kind. It's more of a mask wearing. So I'm wondering if Mrs. Mullins, because there is someone playing the evil Mrs. Mullins, she's either the shape-shifting monster somehow, which I doubt, or she has some kind of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde thing going on. And when she puts this on, this mask on, she does something, or she wears a fuller mask, and she is haunting the girls also. So I believe there is kind of a second plot element to it. It's not just the doll and the manifestation of the doll into the shape-shifting monster, but it's also Mrs. Mullins, who is some kind of terror in the house. Maybe she's gone crazy. Maybe that thing is shown she has a split personality, and she does think she's her daughter or something that she lost. So I am really curious about how that will play out. Also, we see a nun in the film, and it's probably not a coincidence that the nun was a scary figure in The Conjuring 2 last year. The nun is a figure this year who clearly has some kind of evil role to play, because she grabs the protagonist's wheelchair and she starts shoving her out of it and pushing her along in a scary way. So, and then, but she's also they also come to her for advice later on in the trailer. And then next year, as I said, in 2018, we're getting the Nun film. So I'm wondering if this could be some kind of somehow a connection, somehow a tie-in with the Nun. That really remains to be seen, but it is important to take note of the role the Nun plays in the trailer, because clearly the Nun plays a good role and an evil role, so that will be interesting to see how that plays out. We also see the devil in this trailer. There's a really, really fast montage at the end of the house blowing up and the Bible being ripped out and the house being smashed. which were very much Conjuring 2 elements and in the Conjuring elements of things just like moving on their own. And I think the explanation in the first Annabelle was it was actually Satan or something picking up the doll. I doubt that's what they'll do for this one, but they do talk about the devil, and you see the devil's face flash really quick. It's really terrifying, and I don't. If there is a loose connection with the first one, I kind of doubt it. The design does look different, but we do see the devil, so we know the devil manifested will play some kind of role in this film, I'm assuming, unless that's just filler for the trailer, like the Paranormal Activity films I've done, which would be disappointing. But overall, solid trailer. There's a lot of mysterious elements that I just broke down for you. So make sure to give this video a like. Make sure to comment on what you saw in the trailer, what you're looking forward to, if you're even going to see this movie, because I wouldn't blame you if you're not going to go see it because of how terrible the original was. But yeah, I want to hear your thoughts and talk with you about what you think about this movie. So I really want to say thank you for taking the time to listen to my reaction and my trailer breakdown. Hopefully I pointed some things out to you that you didn't see before, and I'm sure there's some things that I may not have seen. So make sure to comment those below, and make sure to subscribe, share it with your friends, give it a thumbs up, and make sure to stay tuned for more great content. We're always putting stuff up on the website. We just released our Red Dragon podcast, which is the final installment in the Hannibal Lecter retrospective series. So we love putting out content. We do this for fun. We don't do it for money or fame or anything of that kind. We just do it because we have fun. Me and Alan, he's my co-host on Silver Screen Guide podcast. He also writes articles for the website. So I hope you have fun watching this too. That's the point. I'm doing it because I have fun, so I want you to have fun too, and we can discuss movies together. So make sure to stay tuned for more great content, and I'll see you next time.